How can you certify that a property that you're about to buy is authentic?
You have to conduct your due diligence. You go to the land registry, to the probate registry, you go to the court registry.
What are the necessary documents that you must see and have before you can say, all right, I can buy this property because the documents are complete?
Okay, C of O comes in last. C of O comes in where after you've made payments for it, after you've registered your power of attorney.
Let's talk about compensation.
It would be evaluated by them, by the estate valuers. They evaluate it and then pay you what the value of the land is at that point in time.
So a lot of you have been renting houses. You've been renting properties. You always hear lawyer's fee, agent's fee, service charge, and all of that. And at the end of the day, sometimes you're actually paying almost the cost of the rent just to move in because of all of these extra charges. The question is, are they legal? Are they right? Should they be so? And what should you do in this regard? We have all the answers to this question. So let's get straight to the point. Olamide, I'm still with you. So break it down for us, starting with you. I mean, you have talked a lot about the role of a lawyer when it comes to buying a property. But let's talk about the role of a lawyer, if it does exist. The role of a lawyer when you are renting an apartment. What is that role?
Okay. The role of a lawyer when you are renting an apartment is a very important role. In fact, the role of the lawyer is to basically draft the tenancy agreement, and sometimes some lawyers manage properties. But the most important role of a lawyer when it comes to tenancy is to draft that agreement between the landlord and the tenant.
Okay, so who's supposed to contact the lawyer? Is it the landlord or the tenant?
The landlord.
Okay.
The landlord engages the lawyer. The landlord has his own lawyer over that property.
Should you also have a lawyer in this regard?
The tenant?
Yes.
Yes, the tenant could have a lawyer to review the agreement between himself and the landlord.
Because a lot of times people just get a tenancy agreement and sign it. Do you subscribe to that, or should we actually have our own lawyer look at it?
You should actually have your lawyer look at it.
Interesting.
Yes.
So let's go into this agent matter. I mean, you deal with property, you deal with these agents, whether you are buying a property or you're renting a property. Now, back in the days, at this moment actually, we have seen a whole industry. I'm going to call it an industry. We have an industry now in the whole property space called the agents.
Yes.
You cannot buy a property, you cannot rent a property without them coming in. In fact, in some areas, they are even taking over the role of a lawyer when it comes to buying a property or renting a property. So question, what is the role of these agents? Are they really necessary when it comes to renting and buying a property? And do you, personal opinion, do you subscribe to their presence in these matters?
Okay. Actually, I used to have the mindset that agents are not necessary.
Okay.
But in the course of practicing as a lawyer, I found out that agents are indispensable.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
On the side of the seller, right, the agent helps the seller to look for buyers. And most times, the seller himself do not have that network of friends, network of people that could patronize him. So he seeks for an agent to look to get a buyer for him. And the reason why my mindset changed was because I got into conversations with these people. I work with these people, and I had to look at their own perspective. To them, agents are indispensable. They cannot do without them. The agents, I have a network of people that would pay for those properties.
Or would rent.
Or would rent those properties.
Question, so whose responsibility is it to contract the agent? The person selling the property or the person buying the property? And in the case, the landlord or the tenant? Who is supposed to contract this agent? Because I'm seeing the landlords will have their own agent, the tenants We'll have an agent as well. So who's supposed to contract this agent? Should we all have our agents?
We should all have our agents.
Wow.
But when it comes to your property, you should have an agent for your property. You know, you could have 1 or 2 agents or as much as you like, but over your property. And that's what some landlords do. They have their own agents they work with. So those agents have friends, which are other agents. When the actual agent to the landlord does not have people to, to patronize the landlord, he seeks out from his friends. Do you have a customer? Do you have somebody who is ready to pay for this property at this moment? If the person has, they bring forward and then they share their profits.
What about in terms of renting? Because this is another serious issue. In terms of renting, I mean, what is the role of agents when it comes to... I know they are definitely going to show you various apartments,
Yes.
but it seems as if they are becoming a problem to renting. I'll give you an example. Somebody just said before we started shooting this, that back in the day, I mean, like 2-3 years ago, that you paid just as little as 2,000, 3,000 for inspection. I didn't even know that. He's telling us that inspection is now 10, 15,000. How? Just to look.
The problem we have, as far as Abuja is concerned, is because of the demand. The demand is more than the number of properties we have. It's more than the supply, if I'm to use that. So, if you as an intending tenant, or if you as someone who is looking into renting a property or an apartment in Abuja, you get an agent or various agents and you stand your ground. I'm not going to pay you any fee until I rent an apartment. So you do not continue to pay this fee, that fee, even before, when you've not seen any property to rent.
But that is what is applicable right now.
Because of the demand. Because the ratio to the number of properties we have is less than the number of people looking to rent apartments in Abuja.
That is just inspection fee. Let's actually talk about the main issues. So when somebody rents an apartment, you are finding agents who are saying to you, oh, you have to pay me as a tenant 10%. I thought it was 5%, but I'm now hearing that it's even up to 10%. And then we also have the lawyer fee also, which the tenant has to pay as well, 10%. But you are not my lawyer. I did not contract you. Why am I paying lawyer fee again? Are you not the landlord's lawyer? Did you advise me on signing the tenancy agreement? So why do I have to pay lawyer fee and tenant fee?
We have become so greedy that we want fees from all corners.
Yes.
As a landlord, I appreciate some landlords, Abuja landlords, who do things the right way. When you have your property, you say, okay, this is the amount of money I would collect from my tenants yearly. But when you're paying your first rent, you pay a certain percentage as the agency fee and as the legal fees. And then if there's a service charge. So, right, if there is a standard fee, you have your standard fee. And then you have your agent that works with you. And the agent knows that this is my fee, whether 5% of the actual rent or 10%. The agent knows. So the agent knows not to, ask the intending tenant for extra fees, right? That is the standard practice. And according to the recent Lagos State tenancy laws, they were stated that it is the duty, in fact, it is the duty of the landlord to pay the lawyer's fees and the agency fee, because the agent and the lawyer has been contracted by the landlord. That is the proper thing to do. So even that law is not being enforced in Lagos at the moment because, well, I do not know. It is not being enforced, but it is a law.
It's not enforced anywhere. I don't even know if it's applicable here in Abuja or other parts of the country. But you are finding, and these agents and these extra charges are making renting near impossible. You will find a person who rents an apartment. You have to pay lawyer fee 10%, agency fee 10 to 15%. You have to pay service charge.
At a point, you have to stand your ground.
Stand your ground. You just said that demand is more than supply.
At a point, you have to stand your ground and be specific. This is what I would do. whether I get my dream apartment or not, this is what I would do. But if you continue to let them push you around, there's nothing anyone can do.
All right, but what do you see as the effect of this on renting and property value? Because let's be realistic. A property goes out for, let's say, 10 million. But by the time you get all your documents and the sale is complete, you're paying an extra 35 to 50% in all of these charges: lawyer, agent, this, that. Same applies to renting. How do you see this affecting the cost, the cost of renting and the cost of property? And is this sustainable? I know we've been doing it for a long time, but it's getting worse. Is this sustainable?
It's not sustainable. No, it's not sustainable. In fact, I do not know how to answer that question. It's not sustainable, and it inflates the real estate market. When you're not getting the value of what you've paid for. If the value of a one bedroom is 1 million, and at the end of the day you're paying about 3.5 million, you've not gotten the value of what you have paid for. And it brings dissatisfaction. You are not happy with your landlord. You are not happy with everyone around you. In fact, the entire year you're not happy because you've not gotten the value of what you have paid for. So in the long run, I do not think it's sustainable. I do not think it's something we can continue to do. At a point, we just have to, protest to the government.
And it's quite interesting about it. Besides, the question is, are there policies at all when it comes to agents in any law that you're aware of?
The agents, they have their association. Recently, I found out they have their association. So most of these agents that you see collecting 10,000 naira for inspection here, 5,000 naira for inspection, are actually not agents. They are just touts. The actual agent actually has an office somewhere or has an ID card to show that he is part of an association.
So there is actually an association of
agents.
Yes. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, in Abuja, do you know about Lagos?
Yes, I know of Abuja. I do not know of Lagos, but I know there's an association of Nigerian agents. They have yes.
My God, this is really an industry, like I said.
Yes,
so
it's an industry.
Whatever led to all of this in the first place? How did we even get here? Because it's now a full-time job for some people. That's what they do. They're agents.
It has gotten to a point where they are indispensable, really, because if you are looking for an apartment, how far can you go?
How would you know that there's a property?
Exactly. How far can you go? Those guys know everywhere.
Do you think there's a possibility of regulating the activities in terms of how much they charge? I mean, as a lawyer, do you think it's possible to bring about policies that would at least say this is the stipulated amount, or stipulated as far as you can go when it comes to your charges, even for landlords as well? Because you're hearing all of these extra charges, a service charge. Somebody said that a service charge is like sometimes 50-60% of the cost of the rent.
It's possible to be regulated because it has been done in Lagos. They have the tenancy laws. I've forgotten the year it was enacted. They have a Lagos tenancy law. But the enforcement is nothing to write home about. But there is a Lagos, as far as Lagos is concerned, there is a Lagos tenancy law, which has not been, which we are using, but is not being enforced.
Here in Abuja,
right?
does that exist?
It does not apply to Abuja.
There is none existing in Abuja, as a matter of fact.
No.
So, as a matter of fact, if you're trying to rent, just be praying. Just be praying. It is something that you can afford. Thank you so much, Olumide, for the questions that you have answered fantastically. I'm quite grateful for that. Please, if you have questions and you have more contributions, the comment section is open for you. Have you dealt with agents? What was your experience? How much did they charge you? And, when it comes to renting, a lot of people would rather stay in an old apartment than move to a new place because of all of these excess charges. How's it affecting the housing market? This has been Straight to the Point. My name is Gloria, and I'll see you next time.